this failure is called buckling failure. Okay, in buckling failure, again I repeat, the buckling failure, the developed stage is much less than the crushing strength of the column materials of the column, but due to this application of the compressive load, column does not maintain its initial configuration. If it is so, then the column is called buckling. Column gets buckled. Okay, this phenomenon is called buckling of the buckling phenomenon. The crushing failure is failure of a material, column materials, but the buckling failure is failure of the column configuration, or it is called form failure. It is called form failure. The buckling failure is example of a form failure. Okay. Next, when a question is when I call the column as short and when it is called a long. If L by B ratio is greater than equal to 12, then it is called short column, and if it is greater than 12, it is called long column. Where L is the length of the column and B is the least lateral dimension of the column. That means if the cross section of column is 300 by 250 millimeter, then the B is 250 millimeter. Okay, if this L effective length and least lateral dimension is less equal to 12, it is short column, and if it is greater than 12, it is called long column. Okay. Okay. Actually, today what we will discuss, we will about the behavior of the short column. Okay, behavior of the short column. Here we mention two terms, that is, one is basically these two are the synonyms, and that is core area or the Carn area of a rectangular section. Core area at the Carn area. Okay, this area means, this core area means if the line of action of axial force passes through this area, there will be the compressive stress in the column. Again, I repeat, if line of compressive force passes through this area, Carn area or the core area, then there will be no tensile stress, or the stress will be entirely incompressive in nature. Okay, why it is required actually? This Carn area is important because if it is steel column, it is no problem. It can withstand both the compressive stress as well as the tensile stress. But if it is RCC column or concrete columns, the concrete is very weak in tension. It can carry the compressive stress, but it cannot carry the tensile stress. Then it is required to know the Carn area or the core area, particularly for concrete column, and because the concrete is very weak in tension, it can carry the compressive stress only. Okay, this Carn area means, again I repeat, Carn area means that much of area of a cross section through which, if the line of action of the compressive force passes through, then there will be no tensile stress within the cross section. The entire trace is compressive in nature. Okay, now we take the example of a rectangular cross section to find out the core area or the Carn area. Okay, in this in this figure, the cross section of the column is B by H. We consider the X and Y axis to reference axis. Basically, this X and Y axis are the two principal axes of this rectangular cross section. X axis and this X and Y axis are the two principal axes of this rectangular cross section. Okay, principal axis means moment of inertia about these two axes is the minimum or the maximum. If it is maximum, then it is called major principal axis. If it is minimum, this is called axis. We consider the reference axis. Two reference axes are the principal axis. Okay. Now we apply a complex force with the eccentricity EX, and this eccentricity EX. This EX is along x-axis, but this eccentricity is about y-axis. Okay, again, whether we mark this eccentricity ex, because e suffix x, because this ex, we are measuring the ex along x-axis, but this ex, this eccentricity is about the y-axis. That means if we multiply this force into this eccentricity, that produce a moment about y-axis. Okay, that's why it is called the eccentricity about y-axis. But we measured the ex along axis. Okay. Now, if we can replace this force with eccentricity ex, this p force with eccentricity ex as a concentrated force p at the centroid of this cross section with a moment about y-axis, that is m, is nothing but p multiplied by ex. Now, if we calculate the stress due to moment as well as this direct compressive force P, what will be that? The stress due to the compressive force, that is P by A applied force divided by area of this cross section. We consider this compressive stress as negative because we consider the compression as negative and tensile as positive. This is our sign convention. Okay. Again, what is the stress due to the bending? That is m by I multiplied by y. What is m? M is the moment about the axis. What is I? I is the moment of inertia about that axis, about which moment is applied. Okay. And y, what is y? Y is the distance of the fiber or distance of the position where we want to find the bending stress from the axis of the moment. Okay. Now, if this case, the maximum stress due to the bending moment will be plus minus m by y, my divided by I multiplied by hello.
Sir, picture to দেখা যাচ্ছে না ঠিক করে.
Yeah, it is the that much of area. If we apply the compressive force through this area, or if the line of action of this compressive force passes through this core area or the curve area, there will be tensile stress within the cross section. The entire stress will be compression in nature. Okay. Okay. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next. Now, initially first, what we considered a rectangular cross section with a compressive force P, with the eccentricity Ex, and this eccentricity is measured along the x-axis, but this eccentricity Ex is about y-axis. Okay. And now, if we can replace this P force with eccentricity Ex by a compressive force of P passes through the centroid of this cross section with a moment my, that is P into Ex, that is force into eccentricity, and this moment is about y-axis. Okay. Now we try to calculate the stress within this rectangular cross section. What is the stress due to the compressive force? This P force, stress due to this P force is minus P by A. We consider this minus. Consider that this is minus because we consider the sign convention as the compressive force is negative and tensile force is positive. Next is maximum the stress due to the moment. What will be the stress due to the moment? That is m by I into y. Here m is my, I is Iyy, because this my is applied about y axis multiplied by y is the distance of the extreme fiber. If we try to find the maximum stress due to the bending moment, then the y will be b by 2, because the cross sectional diameter along x-axis is b, as b by 2. Now, this stress due to this bending moment is either positive or negative. Okay, if the bending, this moment is applied like this, then the left hand right hand portion of y axis will experience the compressive force, and the right hand portion of y axis will experience compressive stress, and left hand portion of this y axis will experience tensile stress. Okay, that's why it is like marked as it is plus minus my divided by iy multiplied by b by 2. Now, if we try to calculate the total stress at point B, what will be that? That is minus P by A. That is the compressive force due to this compressive stress due to this compressive force, plus the tensile stress or tensile stress due to this moment MY, that is MY divided by IYY multiplied by B by 2. Now if we put the value of A and IYY, that becomes minus P divided by BH plus P into EX, that is the value of MY divided by value of IYY, y nothing but 112 HBQ multiplied by B by 2. If we simplify this, ultimately what we will get? Minus B divided by BH plus 6PEX divided by HB square. Okay, this is the total stress at point B. Sorry, at point A. Now, what we will try to find out the value of EX here. Value EX when the net tensile stress or when the stress at point A is entirely in compressive in nature, or what we can write for no tensile stress in the cross section, no tensile stress in the cross section, or no tensile stress at the point A. What will be the value? Minus P divided by BH plus 6PEX divided by HB square less than equal to 0, because we consider the tensile stress as positive. Okay, if it is less than 0, this entire quantity is less than 0, then only the nature of the stress will be compressive in nature. Okay, if we simplify this, what we'll get? Minus B plus 6EX divided by B less than equal to 0, or 6EX divided B less than equal to 1, or EX is equal to less than equal to B by 6. That means if your eccentricity, in this case EX value, is less than B by 6, then there will be the no tensile stress within the cross section. The entire cross section will experience compressive stress. Okay, that is the what is the limiting value? What is the maximum EX value for no tensile stress? For no tensile stress, that is B by 6. Okay, this is the case of uniaxial moment, that is moment is applied only about y axis. Now next if we consider the biaxial stress, or if we consider that the eccentricity about both x-axis and y-axis, then what will be the conditions, or what will be the value of EX or EY? Okay, again we considered the compressive force with the eccentricity EX along x-axis, or eccentricity about y-axis is EX, and eccentricity about x-axis is EY. Again, we replace this force with eccentricity EX and EY by a compressive force P passing through the centroid of the cross section with a moment My, magnitude is P into EX, again with a moment Mx with a magnitude of P into EY. Again, we will calculate the stress due to the direct compression, that is minus P by A. Direct compression is minus P by A. This entire stress is compressive in nature. Next, the maximum stress due to My, that is plus minus My divided by IYY multiplied by B by 2. In this case, again, the right hand portion of y axis will experience the compressive stress due to this my, and left hand portion of y axis will experience the tensile stress due to my. Again, the maximum stress due to the mx will be plus minus mx x multiplied by moment of inertia about x axis, that is ixx, multiplied by distance of extreme fiber from x axis, that is in this case it is h by 2. Again, the upper portion of x axis will experience a compressive stress, and the lower portion of x axis will experience a tensile stress. Again, we will calculate the total stress at the point A. At this point, A will be minus P by A plus M by Y divided by IYY multiplied by B by 2 plus MX divided by IXX multiplied by H by 2. Just put the value again. We will replace the value A by IYY and IXX by their respective values, that is A value is B by cross H, IYY is 112B HBQ, IXX is 112B HQ. Again, just put the value of IYY, IXX and A in this equation, and the equation for the stress at point A, it becomes P divided by B in BH plus PEX divided by 112 HBQ multiplied by B by 2 plus PEX divided by 112 BHQ multiplied by H by 2. Again, we calculate the value of EX and EY for no tensile stress conditions. That is, in the stress at A point, the first term is compressive in nature. Second and third term is tensile in nature. No tensile stress in the cross section or no tensile stress in the cross section. This stress at A will be less than equal to 0. That is minus P divided by BH plus 6 PEX divided by HB square plus 6 PEY divided by BH square, that is less than equal to 0. If we simplify this, what we'll get? We will get 6EX divided by B plus 6EY divided by H less than equal to 1, or EX divided by 6 B by 6 plus EY divided by H by 6 less than equal to 1. Or if we consider that equal to 1, what we will get? We will get the straight line. We get the straight line. Okay. Straight line. Here we consider the eccentricity or applied load. The load is applied in the first quadrant. If we consider the applied load in the second quadrant, we get a straight line from this type of condition. Again, if we consider in applied load is in the third quadrant, then again we get a straight line. And if we consider the applied load at the fourth quadrant, again we get a straight line. Ultimately, what we will get? We will get a rectangle. We will get this hatchet portion. Okay, not exactly rectangle, I think. We will get a rectangle. Okay, and this rectangular area is called the core area or the Karn area of a rectangular cross section. This rectangular cross section. Okay, is rectangular. If your cross section of the column is rectangular, the Karn area or the core area will be, again, it is rectangular in nature, and And if this Karn area means if we apply the compressive force, or if the line of action of this compressive force passes through this hatchet portion, there will be no tensile stress within this rectangular cross section. The entire stress will be compression in nature. Okay, we'll get the Carn area for rectangular cross section. Now try to find out the Carn area or the core area of a circular cross section. Core area or the Carn area of a circular cross section. Again, like the rectangular cross section, we consider x-axis and y-axis. Along x-axis, we consider the eccentricity ex, or we consider the eccentricity about y-axis. We replace this p with this eccentricity ex by a concentrated force p passing through the centroid of this cross section with a moment my, that is p into ex. Again, we will calculate the stress due to the direct compression, that is P is equal to minus P by A. Maximum stress due to the moment is plus minus M OI divided by IOI into D by 2. Here for rectangular cross section, A is pi d square by 4. Moment of inertia about y axis is pi d to the power 4 divided by 64. Put these two in this. Again, the stress at point A at this point A will be minus P by A plus My divided by Iy into D by 2. Or if we put value of A and Iy in this expression, we'll get P minus P divided by pi d square by 4 plus Pex divided by pi d to the power 4 by 64 multiplied by d by 2. Again, for no tensile stress, or if we simplify this total stress at point A, will ultimately what we'll get P divided by pi d square by 4 plus Pex pi d cube divided by 32. For no tensile stress on this cross section, this total stress at point less than equal to 0. Ultimately, if we simplify this, what we'll get Ex is equal to d by 8, but the d is the not the d. Ex is equal to Ex less than equal to d by 8. Okay, but in this with the core area, we consider the Ex about y axis. What is y axis? Y axis is, again, it is a principal axis. How many principal axes a rectangular section has? All axes of rectangular circular cross section are principal axis. Okay, আমার সার্কুলার ক্রস সেকশনে যতগুলো আমি অ্যাক্সিস ড্র করব সবগুলোই হচ্ছে আমার প্রিন্সিপাল অ্যাক্সিস। তাহলে আমি উই কনসিডার দ্য y axis as a reference axis. Again, if we consider the y dash is as reference axis, again what we will get Ex is equal to less than equal to d by 8. Again, if we consider x axis as reference axis, again we will get Ex less than equal to d by 8. Ultimately, what we will get? We will get a circular core area or the Carn area for circular cross section, and diameter of this circle will be d by 4. What we get for circular cross section, the Carn area or the core area is again circular, and diameter of this Carn area will be d by 4. This is all about the short column. Okay, what we'll get in short column, the failure will be the crushing failure, and if we know the Carn area, then if you know the Carn area, and if we apply the compressive force through this Carn area, there will be the no tensile stress within the column cross section. Okay, next we move to the long. Okay, just a minute.
So বলছি স্যার, যদি এক্সেন্ট মানে কোনো লোড যদি ওই এক্সেন্ট্রিসিটির মধ্যে d/3 বা d/4 এর মধ্যে দিয়ে না যায়, তাহলে আমরা কোর এরিয়াটা পাবো না, এবং তখন আমরা টেনশনটা পাবো। এবং
না, হ্যাঁ যদি তোমার ওই কোরে কার্ন এরিয়ার মধ্যে বাইরে যদি কোনো লোড কম্প্রেসিভ ফোর্স অ্যাপ্লাই করো, তাহলে ওই ক্রস সেকশনের মধ্যে কোথাও না কোথাও টেনসাইল স্ট্রেস ডেভেলপ করবে। কিন্তু যদি তুমি কার্ন এরিয়ার মধ্যে যদি তুমি যদি কার্ন এরিয়ার মধ্যে তুমি লোডটা অ্যাপ্লাই করো, তার মধ্যে কোনো টেনসাইল স্ট্রেস থাকবে না। ওই ক্রস সেকশনের ইন্টার ক্রস সেকশনটা আছে কম্প্রেসিভ ফোর্সের মধ্যে, কম্প্রেসিভ স্ট্রেস থাকবে। যদি কার্ন এরিয়ার বাইরে তুমি লোডটা অ্যাপ্লাই করো, তাহলে ওই ক্রস সেকশনে কোনো না কোনো পোর্শনে তোমার টেনসাইল স্ট্রেস ডেভেলপ করবে। ঠিক আছে?
কার্ন এরিয়ার বাইরে যদি লোড অ্যাপ্লাই করি, তাহলে স্যার লোড তো মানে আনসিমেট্রিক্যাল লোডিং হবে।
আনসিমেট্রিক্যাল লোডিং মানে তুমি তো লোড যদি কোনো ধরো প্রথম প্রবলেমটা যদি করো, সেটা তো আনসিমেট্রিক্যালি হবে, সিমেট্রিক হবে না তো। ওয়াই অ্যাক্সিসে তুমি রাইট হ্যান্ড সাইডে লোড অ্যাপ্লাই করছো, সেটা তো সিমেট্রিক হচ্ছে না তো সবসময়। ঠিক আছে, তুমি
ঠিক আছে
বলো।
বলছি স্যার, ওই লোয়ার লেফট, ওই রেক্ট্যাঙ্গুলার সেকশনের লোয়ার লেফট কর্নারে কেন পয়েন্ট এটা কনসিডার করা হয়েছে?
লোয়ার লেফট অ্যাকচুয়ালি বেসিক্যালি তুমি যেটা কনসিডার করেছি, আসছি তোমার ফিগারটা দেখালে আমি ভালো করে বুঝতে পারো। ফিগারটা দেখাচ্ছি। এখানে এই কোশ্চেনটা তো বলছো আমি এই পয়েন্টটা কেন এই লোয়ার মোস্ট কর্নারটা ধরেছি, তাই তো বলছো?
ইয়েস স্যার।
অ্যাকচুয়ালি দেখো, এই ওয়াই অ্যাক্সিসের রেসপেক্টে তো আমি মোমেন্টটা অ্যাপ্লাই করেছি, তাহলে ওয়াই অ্যাক্সিসের রাইট হ্যান্ড পোর্শনে তোমার কম্প্রেসিভ স্ট্রেস থাকবে, লেফট হ্যান্ড সাইডে তোমার টেনসাইল স্ট্রেস থাকবে, তাই তো বেন্ডিং মোমেন্টের জন্য। হ্যাঁ, এইবার দেখো তুমি এই পয়েন্টটা তুমি এই যেখানটা আমি নিয়েছি এখানে না নিয়ে তার ওপরটা পয়েন্ট, উপরের কর্নারটাও নাও, তাহলে একই হবে।
হ্যাঁ,
কারণ হচ্ছে যে ভার্টিক্যাল লাইনটা এ কর্নার থেকে পাস করেছে, সেই ভার্টিক্যাল লাইনটাতে তোমার টেনসাইল স্ট্রেসটার ম্যাগনিটিউডটা সব থেকে বেশি, তাই তো? তুমি এখানে না করে লোয়ার মোস্ট কর্নারটা না ধরে টপ মোস্ট কর্নারটাকেও ধরতে পারো ওই সাইডটাতে। কিন্তু তুমি সেকেন্ড প্রবলেমটাতে এখানে এসো, দেখো ওয়াই এর জন্য এর থেকে ভার্টিক্যাল এ পয়েন্টের থ্রু দিয়ে যে ভার্টিক্যাল লাইনটা গেছে, সেখানে টেনসাইল স্ট্রেসটা ম্যাক্সিমাম হবে। ঠিক আছে? তাহলে তুমি মানে ওয়াইটা ম্যাক্সিমাম পেতে পারো, যেটাকে এ বলে মার্ক করেছি, তার অপোজিট টপ কর্নারটাতেও একই ভ্যালু পাবে। কিন্তু যখন এম এক্স এর জন্য ক্যালকুলেট করবে, তখন দেখো এ পয়েন্টের হরাইজন্টাল লাইন যেটা আছে, এ পয়েন্টের থ্রু থেকে যে হরাইজন্টাল লাইনটা আছে, সেখানে তোমার ম্যাক্সিমাম টেনসাইল স্ট্রেসটা ডেভেলপ করবে। তাহলে কোন পয়েন্টে ম্যাক্সিমাম টেনসাইল স্ট্রেস ডেভেলপ করার প্রবাবিলিটি বেশি? এ পয়েন্টে। তাই জন্য দেখো এই লোয়ার মোস্ট পয়েন্টটা নিয়েছি।
ওকে স্যার,
ঠিক আছে? of column or behavior of long column. Okay, in figure 1, figure 2 and figure 3, it shows the three different equilibriums. Okay, figure 1 is stable equilibrium, figure 2 is neutral equilibrium, and figure 3 okay, 1, 3 stable, neutral and unstable equilibrium. In figure 1, if we give some disturbance on this ball, and if we remove the disturbance from this ball, the ball come to its initial position after some time. This is called the stable equilibrium. Again, I repeat, if we give some disturbance on this ball, or if we put some horizontal force on this ball, and if we remove this, after some time the ball comes to its initial position. This is called stable equilibrium. What that means, in stable equilibrium, what will be the stable equilibrium? If we apply some force, and if we remove this force from this object or the structure will come to its initial position. That is called stable equilibrium. Again, I repeat, in stable equilibrium, if we give some disturbance on the structure or any object, and if we remove this force, after some time the structure or the object will come to initial position. It is called stable equilibrium. Now in figure 2, it is called neutral equilibrium. And if we again in this figure, if we put some horizontal force on this ball, and if we remove, the ball will be in equilibrium position, but it never come to its initial position. It is called neutral equilibrium. Okay, that means again, if we have a structure, and if we apply some load or if we apply some disturbance on the structure, after removing this disturbance or the force, the object will remains in equilibrium position but never come to its initial position. It is called neutral equilibrium. And third is unstable equilibrium. That means if we put a ball, put a horizontal force on this ball, the ball no longer remains in this on this surface. Okay, it is called unstable, or it is called unstable equilibrium. Unstable is another type of equilibrium. Okay, now we come to the column problem. Okay, in figure 1, it is stable equilibrium. It is similar to figure 1. That means if we have a column with a increasing compressive force P, okay, increasing compressive force P, if we give some horizontal disturbance or horizontal force on this column, and if we remove this horizontal force, it comes to its initial position only when the value of P is less than a certain value. Again, I repeat, a column is subjected to a compressive force, increasing compressive force, and if we give some horizontal disturbance on the column, and if we remove this horizontal disturbance, the column will come to its initial position only when the value of P is less than a certain value. This certain value is P critical, PCR. If the P is less than PCR, then only the column come to its initial position. Okay, next third column. If the compressive force on the column is exactly equal to a certain value, that is PCR or P critical, and if we remove this horizontal disturbance from this column, the column remain in stable condition, equilibrium condition, but it never come to its initial position. That means the columns does not maintain its initial configuration if P is equal to pre-critical or P-critical or PCR. Next, third figure, if the P value of compressive force is much greater than P-critical or greater than P-critical, the column will fails or become unstable. Okay, this P-critical is called critical buckling load of column. This P-critical is called critical buckling load of column. That means in P-critical, if the compressive force of the column is exactly equal to P-critical, then column remains in a stable equilibrium condition, but does not maintain, or it cannot maintain its initial configuration. Okay, it will remains in other configuration. And if the compressive force of the column is less than pre-critical, after removing the disturbance, it comes to its initial position. That means the buckling load or P-critical is a value which changes the stable equilibrium condition to neutral equilibrium condition. If we apply the P-critical on the column, the stable equilibrium changes to neutral equilibrium. Okay. Now, just tell me if the line of action of a force, oh, just a minute. Now, next in the long column, we will calculate this P critical value or buckling load of the column based on Euler's theorem. The assumption are the column is initially perfectly straight and is axially loaded. The section of a column is uniform. The column material is perfectly elastic, homogeneous, and isotropic, and obeys Hooke's law. The column will fail by buckling only. Self weight of the column is ignorable. The first assumption. What is the first assumption? The column is initially perfectly straight and axially loaded. If the line of action, just tell me if the line of action of the load passes through the centroid or CG of the cross section, then only the column is axially loaded. We call it the column is axially loaded. But question is, why, if the load is passing through this centroid of the column, then how the column will deflect like this, or deflect like how the buckling occurs? Okay, if load is purely axially, then why the moment occurs? Because this moment occurs due to this. What is the definition of this load? This horizontal disturbance. What is the definition? If we apply some load on the column, okay, yeah, just a minute. If the column is subjected to a increasing force, okay, if we put increasing force, or if we apply the PCR value within the column, and if we put a horizontal disturbance, and if we remove this horizontal disturbance, then column will never come to its initial position. Due to this horizontal disturbance or horizontal force, the column will gets buckled. Okay, this gets buckled. Then due not only this, due to this P load, column does not get buckles, because this P line of action of this P passing through the centroid of the cross section of column. Due to this horizontal force, column will get buckled. Okay, next, the section of the column is uniform. Okay, cross section is same throughout the length of the column. The column material is perfectly elastic. It is elastic material. Behavior of the material is elastic, homogeneous, isotropic, and obey Hooke's law. Column will fail with buckling alone. Okay, failures occurs due to the buckling, and self weight of the column is ignorable. We have not considered the self weight of the column. Okay, next, take an example. Just a minute. Okay, here we consider both end pins or hinge column of length L. Okay, subject to the force P, and due to the application of horizontal force, to find out the critical buckling load, column will get buckled, and this buckling configuration is marked as dotted line. If it is show, if we considered the x-axis is considered along the length of the member, and y-axis is considered the perpendicular to the member axis. Okay, at the distance x, and after deformation, deflection at the point x is y. Then the moment at the location x will be P into P into P into Y, and we consider it is positive. When we consider it positive, if the left face of the column is in vertical, we consider here the column is vertical. Okay, if the left vertical face of the column is in tension, then the moment is called positive, is considered as positive. Similarly, if we consider the right face of this vertical face of the column will experience compressive force, then only we consider the moment as positive. Here, this Py moment will create tensile stress at the left vertical face of the column and right vertical face, and the compressive force at the right vertical plane of the column. Okay, now we will take the help of moment curvature relationships, that is m by ei is equal to minus d2y dx2. Just put the value of m, d2y dx2 is equal to minus py divided by ei, or if we simplify this, that is ultimately we get a second order differential equation for both in pinned column, that is d2y dx2 plus p into y divided by ei is equal to 0. Now the solution of this differential equation A will be y is equal to c1 cos x root under p divided by ei plus c2 sin x x into root under p divided by ei. This is the solution of second order differential equation, that is marked as equation A, where the c1 and c2 are the integration constant, and this can be obtained, or we can determine the c1 and value of c1 and c2 from the boundary condition. What are the boundary condition here? At the boundary condition are at point A or at point B or at x is equal to 0, the value of y is equal to 0. The deformation at point B is equal to 0. If we put this from equation B, what we will get? Value of c1 is equal to 0. Y becomes 0. c1 cos 0 1, sin 0 0, sin 0, that is c1 becomes 0. Now the second boundary condition at x is at point A or at x is equal to L, y is equal to again 0. Now from if we put the value c1 is equal to 0 in equation B, ultimately what we will get, the equation for deformation becomes y is equal to c2 sin x root under p divided by ei. Now from equation C, if we put the second boundary condition, what we will get? Value of y is equal becomes 0, c2 sin x becomes L root under p divided by ei. C2 never are equal to 0. It should not be equal to 0. Then sin L root under p divided by ei is equal to 0. And if we simplify this, or if we solve sin, what we'll get? Just a minute. What we'll get? Sin L root under p divided by ei is equal to 0. Okay, from there what we will get? We will get L root under p divided by ei is equal to 0, pi, 2 pi, and so on. Okay, if we consider L root under p divided by ei is equal to 0, this gives the initial configuration of the column or initial position of the column, but we try to find out the buckling load, then we have to consider L root under p divided by ei is equal to pi. From there what we will get? We will get p is equal to pi square ei by L square. This is the buckling load for both end pinned column. This is buckling load for both end pinned column. Okay, that is p is equal to pi square ei by L square. This is the buckling load or critical buckling load for both end pinned column. That means what signifies this critical buckling load? That means if we apply this much of load for a both end pinned column, then column will both end pinned column, and if we give some horizontal disturbance on the column, and if we remove this horizontal force, the column does not get its initial position. It remains in other configuration. Okay, if it is perfectly straight after application of this load, and if we give some disturbance on the column, and if we remove this horizontal disturbance, the column will no longer back its initial straight position. It will remains in a buckle position. Okay, the column has some curvature after application of this load with some horizontal disturbance. Okay, this is the significance of this P load. Okay, and that is all for today. We will discuss other boundary condition in the next class. Any question? Hello. Okay, that is all for today's. Okay, we'll discuss the remaining portion in the next class. Okay.